Hey guys, it's Dr. Justin Marchegiani here. Hope everyone is having a fabulous day. We're doing a live Q&A. We'll be diving into a couple of things here. This will be a quick one. Before we dive in, make sure you smash that like button if you guys are enjoying the content. Make sure you hit the subscribe and the bell so you get notifications of great content coming your way. And last but not least, put down your comments below. Really want to know what you think. And if you have any questions on the topic or comments, let me know. All right, guys, what's happening in the world today? So we talked a lot about the coronavirus updates yesterday. I may come later on today with a little video on that. Right now, a lot of my points and positions, I would say, kind of stand the same. Also, my predictions on the bell curve topping out, the Washington state model, Christopher Murray model, they've actually backed off on April 15th, 16th being the top of the bell curve. They actually went back to April 12th, which is what I said originally last week, and I modeled that off of Italy. So that was my prediction that is coming true. And we look at some of the deaths coming out there. They are definitely being, I think, exacerbated by the fact that people are being diagnosed with coronavirus that have it, but not necessarily die from it. And that's important because lots of people have the flu, or lots of people have a heart attack, or have a medical issue. They go to the hospital to get treated for that deadly issue. And while they're in the hospital, they develop a nosocomial infection. That's a hospital-based infection, and they catch the virus or infection in the hospital. We see that thousands of times a year with MRSA and those kind of things. So we have to be able to differentiate correlation and causation, right? A lot of people that have confounding morbidities and diseases that may be slightly exacerbated by the virus, and they may not die of the virus, they may die with the virus. And we have to know that because that can really exacerbate the statistics. And also, if other countries are factoring in data differently, it's going to be hard to compare apples to apples. So I just want you guys to be aware of that. Now, on the health side, we've already talked about the fact that, all the measures that are in place are really defensive measures: washing your hands, social distancing, quarantine, which I think quarantine is smart for people that are, immunocompromised and the extreme elderly. I think it's smart, but at the same time, we have to actually work on enhancing and boosting the immune system. We talked about the correlation that's there between a lot of diabetics are coming down with this virus and they're dying. And that's important because we know high levels of blood sugar, high levels of insulin, right? High levels of blood sugar thus would create high levels of insulin. High levels of insulin will suppress our immune response. It'll decrease phagocytosis, which is our body's natural ability of our monocytes and macrophages and various lymphocytes and neutrophils to gobble up bacteria and even viruses. So high levels of blood sugar will suppress our immune system, okay? And then, of course, when you're consuming a lot more, usually carbohydrates, high carbohydrate food, you're usually not getting the same level of nutrients you need to run your immune system, whether it's zinc or magnesium, or whether it's high-quality amino acids like cysteine or N-acetylcysteine or glutamine or glycine. These are amino acids that help with glutathione. And obviously, if you're not getting, usually the types of carbohydrates that are going to be more rich in certain vitamins and minerals will be like the fruits, right? Will be more like the non-starchy vegetables, right? Those are going to be your really nutrient-dense carbs, and then you can have some fruits as well, but just try to stay to the lower carbohydrate, lower sugar fruits, berries, green apples, those kind of things, because they're going to have similar levels of nutrients, but they're not going to have all the higher carbohydrate value that you're going to get with more tropical fruits. Okay, hope that makes sense. Let me go to a couple questions here and see what's up. All right. Are they still taking stats on anyone who is dying with regular flu this last season? They'll say 0 people have died of flu, and they've all got that chalked up to COVID. So my biggest concern is Dr. Birx made it crystal clear that if you have another issue, whether it's a heart disease or kidney failure or any other issue, but you have COVID-19, you're diagnosed with that, then that will be the cause of death. So it's possible statistically, based on how the stats are done now, that if you have flu and you also have COVID, that you will be marked down as a COVID-19 death, according to how the stats are run today. So yeah, a lot of confounding variables. That's the reason why when you look at the flu data, you're going to see the numbers are down. And for people that are just tuning in, Facebook won't be able to see it, but on YouTube, so you guys can see it. Here is the U.S. deaths weekly, okay? Here is the pneumonia deaths. And again, pneumonia is the major cause of death for flu, by the way, FYI. So you can see that's down right here, okay? And then when you go look at, let's just say, the European deaths, right, the Euromomo data, all of the deaths, all ages, are down. So if we go look at that data, see here. Oh, they did week 14. Okay, so new data is out today on the Euromoa. So you can see here there is. I'll have to go look at this. This just came out this morning. So 0 to 4 is down on average. 5 to 14 you can see is still below average. A little bit of a spike in 15 to 64. You can see that spike, but nothing outside of the norm in the last 3 years. The spike is still less than these two over here. And then the 65 age and plus is obviously up. We talked about that already, but look, it's dropping. And it's not any higher than 3 years ago. Maybe a tiny bit higher than 2 years ago, not any higher than 3 years ago. And then all ages is up overall, but primarily because of the 65 and up. But you can see not any higher than before. So just giving you that data here, guys. And then if we look at the overall mortality rates of influenza and pneumonia, let's say back in 1918, you can see there's a big spike here, okay? Big spike in overall deaths. We're not quite seeing that right now. Okay, not seeing that. We're seeing a drop here. Hope that helps, guys. All right, let me keep on rolling. Any other questions here on YouTube? Let me dive in. I heard a chiropractor say that a combination of fat and sugar is more harmful than sugar alone. Why is that? Well, if you're doing a lot of sugar and you're doing a lot of fat, typically those only exist in processed foods that usually are high in junky trans fat. It's very rare that someone's consuming healthy fats like avocado or grass-fed beef or high-quality fish or even fish oil while consuming a whole bunch of sugar, right? It's probably rare. I mean, maybe the only exception is in a pastry product where there's a whole bunch of butter in there, right? Which is still better than trans fat. When you increase your insulin levels, you're going to open your cells up to start storing a lot of the carbohydrate as fat. And if you have a whole bunch of fat already there as well, then those gates are already open for that sugar to get converted to fat. So that fat will be more readily stored than burned. That's the major reason there. What to do about chest tightness and heart palpitations? I feel like I have to work for air sometimes. Could be the nerves, but want to supplement if I should do breathing exercises. So if you're having chest tightness, it just depends, right? You'd have to look at the diet and such as well. So of course, I'm counting on the fact that your diet is solid and doing great, solid paleo template, keeping the carbs down, more vegetables than fruit and starch. If that is the case, then I would add in some N-acetylcysteine, which I think is great, which will kind of cut down some of the mucus. Of course, vitamin C. If you're having a lot of palpitations, what's the cause there? Is there a whole bunch of stress from all the craziness in the news, or is there another issue? So when I see palpitations, I'm always like, let's make sure magnesium's good. Let's make sure potassium's good. Let's make sure just general minerals and electrolytes are good. And then, of course, with cough, we can always add in some extra ginger to help with the cough. Gabe writes in, oxalate starting to develop these bumps internally at the tip of my fingers and around finger joints, and I'm starting to think uric acid or oxalates are developing anyway to break them and stop them. Okay, sounds like a comment. A friend of mine doing nasal rinse, going well, but one day had what looked like black dust in the nose, mucus, only time. Should we be concerned? Hard to say. I mean, you could just be flushing out allergens that person got exposed to during the day, which is good. So you'd have to just look for more of a trend. Doesn't sound like, usually with an immune reaction, with allergies, usually it's clear mucus. With an infection, it's, obviously lighter yellow to green. The more green it is, the more immune cells are agglutinating or kind of congealing to go after the infection. Dr. Jolene Brighton was diagnosed with COVID, healthy nutrient supplement and lifestyle. So wonder if we can know why some are getting a respiratory symptoms. Can it be genes? It just depends. If you look at 90% of the people that get exposed to, and really, it's the SARS-2 COVID is the actual virus. SARS-2 COVID, the diagnosis or the disease is COVID-19. So virus is one thing. SARS-2 COVID disease is COVID-19. A little confusing. We don't really have that with flu. It's like if you have the flu, you get the flu. We don't call it, maybe we categorize it type A or type B, but it's H1N1 or H5N1 for the bird flu. We don't have a separate disease for it. So yeah, 90% are going to be asymptomatic. 80%. They actually get it. Out of that 10% are going to be mild, right? And then mild could be a cough, a fever, maybe a little achy for a day or two, nothing that big of a deal, and then you're done. Some it's going to last a couple days to a week or two. So it just depends. It would depend upon what their diet, what their stress is like, what their overall immune function is like. All Are they making the Z-Pak, chloroquine, and zinc the standard treatment across all hospitals for corona? It's kind of state by state. There's a lot of politics being played in. A lot of governors are stepping up and saying, no, we're going to make it illegal. Now people are stepping back up and saying, okay. There's a lot of people saying this saved my life. Like in the news, there was a 100-year-old woman who was on death's doorstep, and she did the corona or the chloroquine and the Z-Pak and the zinc, and she survived, no problem. So I think it's going to be a miracle treatment in this, and the reason why is because of the fact that the virus is going to attack the hemoglobin, and when it attacks the hemoglobin, it creates hypoxia, and it also lets and releases out a whole bunch of iron, and iron is a oxidant. All right. Think of it as like gasoline being released into a room where it's not going through the pilot of a stove. Well, now if you spark or do anything, you can create a fire, an explosion, right? That's what's happening in our bodies, and that creates lots of free radical stress and inflammation. So we talked about the fact that getting that virus killed is going to help with the hypoxia. We can add hemoglobin in via transfusion. We can add a lot of our redox antioxidants in, like vitamin C and glutathione, to help as well, and vitamin A. Is citrulline good for increasing oxygen in the body? How many grams is safe to take? Yeah, citrulline is great. I would say anywhere between 1 to 3 grams is fine. Chest tightness. So do all the things. Get the mucus under control with the NAC and the ginger, and do all the right things that I talked about regarding immune boosting nutrients. So if you guys need any help, let my office know. I got some more broad spectrum immune support in that has a combination of a lot of these things together. I have 2 supports. One's called Immunosupreme, one's called Virusid, and we have a couple of these in. So if you need help on that, feel free to email my office, and we can help you. office@justinhealth.com if you need more support on that. Resistant starch can help repopulate good bacteria. Yes, it can. It acts as a prebiotic for sure. You're going to want healthy, good bacteria, good probiotics in there too. Maybe even some good fermented food in your diet if you can tolerate it. And then prebiotics and resistant starch can be helpful to grow that good bacteria back. After your current research with COVID-19, do you still recommend nebulizing glutathione and silver for prevention? Definitely nebulizing glutathione. I don't think it necessarily needs to be done for prevention unless you have a lot of lung health issues to begin with. I think taking oral and or NAC is probably enough on the prevention side. But if you are more predisposed, then I would topically get it in there. And then if you actually come down with something, then I would definitely nebulize for sure. I think a lot, if you have, I haven't needed to do it. I've just been doing glutathione and NAC, and that's been enough for me. If you have allergies, would you still recommend against walking outside? Feel good walking in the sunshine, but don't want to trigger? It just depends. I would be using natural antihistamine degranulators like quercetin and vitamin C and stinging nettle if I have allergies to kind of help degranulate the histamine. And I'd have a really good air filter. So like we have mine over there in the corner of my office for downstairs is my Austin Air. It's the HealthMate Plus. We have it online at my site as well if you guys want to grab it. That one's unique because it has the 15 pounds of zeolite, 15 pounds of activated charcoal, and a HEPA, so it will filter out a lot more toxins and allergens. And the filter itself lasts 5 years. Most last 6 months. So I'm a big fan of that one. So I would definitely go outside. You could just flush your sinuses out before and after and do a lot of the histamine degranulators that I mentioned. Is it okay to take bifidobacterium probiotics with histamine intolerance? The big histamine probiotic in there is usually the KCI or Paracasei lactobacillus. That's the big one. So if you can tolerate it and you don't have histamine symptoms, flushing, brain fog, skin stuff, hives, urticaria stuff, then I think you're fine. Best natural GD source of multivitamin that helps iron, B12, folate deficiency. I mean, if you're looking at natural source of it, liver would be the best. In your opinion, what sauna is better for mitigating viruses? Near infrared or far infrared? I've been using sunlight and far infrared every day. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure it's going to be sunlight, and it's got a combination of near and far. Okay. I forget, if you listen to my interview with the founder of the Juve Light, near infrared penetrates deeper. Far infrared is what generates the heat. So far infrared's generating heat in your body and it's causing you to sweat more. The near infrared has more of an anti-inflammatory effect and penetrates deeper without as much heat. Okay, very good. Which oral glutathione do you recommend? Have nebulized solution already from a friend with lung issues, but like to take it orally. So yeah, I like a liposomal glutathione version. So liposomal Quicksilver makes one as well. Those are some good brands. A good liposomal one, if not NAC. And then the special glutathione I use for nebulizing is it has a sodium bicarbonate in there with nothing else. So that way it can break down and become water soluble. And I don't think I'm carrying it right now. But if you go to justinhealth.com/glutathione, I think there's a forwarding link to where I get it from. Okay, do you have any videos where you discuss oxalates? Yes, I do. Just go to my website, justinhealth.com. Use the search on there. We have a lot of podcasts on the topic, and they're already transcribed. So if you put those keywords in, it should be able to come up. Best absorbable multivitamin for inflammatory bowel disease. It just depends. So if there's a lot of inflammatory bowel issues, we may actually do an elemental formula, which has a lot of those nutrients already broken down in free amino acid or, chelated form. So it depends on how bad the IBD is, whether it's Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, we may come in there with an elemental. And then after that, typically my multi-support pack is good enough because the B vitamins are all methylated and activated, and the minerals are all bound to amino acids for maximal absorption, and there's no like rice bran or anything in there, rice protein. Okay, friend nebulizes the glutathione but gets dizzy and a headache after every use. Is there anything we can do to help that? I mean, you could add in some extra binders like activated charcoal or such, and just probably decrease the dose or decrease the time they're doing it. Is there a point, probably some die-off happening. Is there a point where taking too many supplements can do more harm? Vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, NAC, reishi. Is there a ceiling? I mean, it just depends. As long as you're taking within normal ranges, you're not going too out of the norm with the dosing. Like vitamin C, if you go too high, you're going to get loose stools. Zinc, just keep it within a reasonable range on the zinc, maybe 10 to 30 milligrams on the zinc. Same with vitamin D, keep it within what a daily amount would be. Again, if you're trying to upregulate things acutely, that's okay. You wouldn't keep that dose as a chronic dose. And same thing with reishi, typically 1 to 3 grams, and 3 grams would be more acute. 1 gram would be more like kind of a, more of an everyday kind of dose, for sure. Thanks for keeping us calm down and informed. Not sure what the world would be like if you weren't helping people. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Want to provide good information for everyone, keep everyone empowered. Right now, they downregulated the curve to 60,000 deaths. My original estimate off the bat was half of what the flu was. In the beginning, I was modeling it off of the China's data. The problem with China's data is, one, I may not be accurate, but two, they may be classifying deaths as true causes versus correlation deaths. Right now, we have a lot of correlation deaths. And when we look at how Europe was calculating, or let's say Italy, we'll use Italy because they had kind of like the worst case scenario and things. Italy only had 12% of people, I'm going to pull up this article, only 12% of people actually had right here, on reevaluation by the National Institute of Health, here it is, only 12% of death certificates show a direct causality from coronavirus. That's what really matters, right? Like people are talking about like, oh my gosh, like, this thing ravaged through nursing homes in Seattle or Ottawa or whatever. People have to remember that the average person that goes into these kinds of nursing homes, they only live 5 months on average after entering nursing homes like this on average, according to a 2012 study. So, I mean, I know it stinks if that's your family or partner or whatever, but the average on that is those people were going to be dying within 5 months anyway, right? So obviously we want to provide more information for them so they can live longer, but those are just the stats. So if it wasn't this, it'd be something else, right? So we just have to keep that in the back of our heads. All right, guys, any other questions? Feel free. Does oregano oil destroy good bacteria too? Yes, it can. That's why you want to follow up with good probiotics during or maybe after. Definitely after, maybe during, if you're using oil of oregano as an antiviral support. All right, guys, hope all that's well. I'll try to come back maybe later on today and give you guys an update on what else is happening. Put your comments below. Give me a like, give me a thumbs up, and a share. Hit that bell to get notifications of great content coming your way. All right, you guys have a phenomenal day. Take care, y'all. Bye.